What's up, everybody? Let's begin.
Lose! I don't lose! I win! I win! That's my job! That's what I do! There is no tomorrow!
Focus on what you're doing. Get better at what you're doing. Everything else is a complete waste of time.
It's not over until I win!
All right, Bitcoin, Saturday night. Welcome, everybody, once again to the channel. Let's talk about Bitcoin. So, wow, good day. Good price action on Bitcoin. So we said we were looking for the price to make a move to this resistance zone right here, which is about 93 and 95k. The resistance is coming from the weekly pivot, and given this was a consolidation of about 18 odd days the last time we saw this, it was expected, or I was expecting the price to make an attempt to this resistance pivot but not break through it in the first attempt. And we had marked out this box in the anticipation that post the rejection the price should find support in this box right here. So in the first instance, the price action has kind of unwrapped itself to how we had laid out in the last few videos. Break of resistance, both horizontal as well as diagonal, rejection from a major weekly pivot, and then finding support into a daily pivot with the anticipation that the price should now maybe spend some more time in terms of its consolidation around this box, and then make another attempt at this resistance. And then I am 50-50 if in the second attempt price will break through this resistance, or maybe find a very brief pause in its upward trajectory, and then maybe this is the zone where price finds its support in the next rejection and then kind of works its way upwards. So something like this gets rejected to come back here and then finds its way up. So that is what I am looking for in terms of price action going forward. The price has played out the way, as I said in the prior few videos, the price has kind of behaved in that anticipated manner. So good to see that. On the 4-hour, let's see if we can find any weaknesses here. Slight weakness, I would say, on the RSI. So could be another dip lower, don't know. But point to take away is this box here. This is a daily pivot, so it holds more significance than the shorter time frames with 4 hours or below. Yeah, just to then look at the momentum. Nothing unusual, right? You break from this compression between the 50 and the 200 SMA, weekly pivot rejection, and then both from a pivot standpoint, which is this daily pivot, and let's see what the, so just to conclude, on the 4-hour, price in confluence to the pivot zone also found support on the 200 SMA. So you break the 200 SMA, get rejected at a resistance, come back, find buyers at the 200 SMA in confluence to the daily pivot. So that's a positive confluence, right? So the 200 SMA and this pivot zone becomes important on the 4-hour. Price needs to hold these two confluence points to support the thesis that the price is likely going to make further attempt to this resistance block post spending some more consolidation around these levels in the next couple of days maybe. as we head into the weekly open. Yeah, on the daily you can see at the same pivot zone where on the 4-hour it found support on the 200 SMA. On the daily, it's the 50 SMA that the price has held its support on. So break the 50 SMA and then tested back the 50 SMA. These are all normal moves for the price. Again, nothing to worry about as long as this box here, which is the weekly support zone, right, which we have marked out, holds. This is a very expected behavior of the price to break out, consolidate, and take another attempt, right? And you would notice from a briefly go back to the 4-hour, you see this compression which was forming between the 50 and the 200. Also, you can see the super trend somewhere there in the background, but on the daily, it's now compressed between the super trend resistance and the 50 SMA, right? So it's kind of replicating the compression it had on the 4-hour prior to which it made this move. It's now just replicating that kind of price action and compression on the daily between this resistance and this support box, between the super trend resistance as well as the 50 SMA. So again, I think by the looks of it, it's setting itself up for a next move up. Now, the third point of confluence I can add is from this to this. The price has just retested almost its 0.78, and I'm taking this as the low because this was the momentum move. You spend all this time in consolidation and then eventually make this move. So either from this point, or even if you want to kind of be more relaxed about the lows, even if you take the low of the fib here, you can see the price has tested the 0.618, the golden fib ratio. That's confluence number one. Second is the confluence from where it found support from a pivot demand standpoint, and then the third is the 50 daily SMA. So there's a lot going on where the bias is supported that it's a normal pullback. It's finding the support where it should be, and now is spending or taking its time before it takes its next move up. And what is that next move up? We've already said it's the 0.618 of this current drop from the highs to the recent lows, which is in confluence to this October 10th low. So the highs at 126, the low of 80, the 0.618 in confluence to October 10 is about 106k. Where is your 200 SMA? The 200 SMA right now is sitting right at 0.618, so 106. So look, the real test of this move is going to be at the zone of the pivot, which is essentially this supply zone effectively. That's going to test the price in the sense whether this move turns out to be a relief rally or whether it's then able to convert especially the October 10th low as a major pivot into support, and then continues its way upwards towards the new all-time highs. But there's no denying the fact that this zone here is going to hold a lot of confluence with regards to your fib, with regards to the supply, with regards to liquidity. So how and in what manner the price behaves, similar to how the price is getting rejected from this resistance at present. I don't think the probability wise, I would say it's not likely that the price is going to slice through this supply zone in the first go, right? So if it's not a relief rally, then for sure it moves up, rejected, find its way here again, support, whatever. It can take different forms and shapes of how that move comes along, right? But fact of the matter is, it's this zone that needs to be converted into support. Okay. So far so good. And then obviously in confluence to how price develops, the RSI needs to be looked at as well in terms of whether it does a double bottom or you see any divergences being formed as the price action progresses. On the weekly, just let me quickly hide the drawings and let's just see the key indicators and where they stand in terms of their confluence with price. So that's your 50 SMA underside consolidation with the 50 SMA. Yeah, it's a red flag, but as long as this higher low of market structure holds good, looking at the history, you shouldn't, but I've already laid out my primary thesis, my primary bias. As long as this market structure isn't broken, it should move up. So this move up will, the top end of this is about 105k. So look, there's a lot of confluence points I've talked about in the last like 10 odd minutes, which points that 106k is a key data point, and I think that move is coming in. Where do we go from there? We'll see when we reach that bridge. So all good. A bit of a flaggish thing, but fine. The Ichimoku, the Bollinger Band, I think it's a bottoming pattern on the lower end of the Bollinger Band. So all of this consolidation at the bottom end of the Bollinger Band, probability wise, it should move up. And just for reference, the top end right now is 126k. Okay, the standard Ichimoku, the price is just consolidating within the cloud, right? So when the price is in cloud, you basically chill. Okay, the lagging span should be above the 50 SMA. I think if you pull up the 50 SMA, it should be up. So look, it's all cool for now, I would say. So that's where the weekly stands. The daily, from an indicator standpoint, consolidating on top of the 50, compressing under the super trend, and these two key bands, this right here is the 200 SMA. So I think at the bare minimum, the price should look to move towards that price point. Now, for the moment, if I hover over to a cleaner chart, just because I don't want to spoil my drawings on the main chart, a lot of confluence point, even from a structure standpoint, if you look at from the previous cycle where we made this kind of a bear flag here and then we broke out, that breakout was towards the downside. So most of the folks are watching or expecting the price to kind of follow this trajectory of motion, which is the price at present is in the process of making a bear flag, and you're not likely to see a move towards 106, 105k, right? Which is that 0.618 on the recent move. So again, there are signs to be concerned about, but ultimately, for me at least, it's the horizontals and the key pivots of price. And before any of these major breakdowns happened, even in the past, right, the price shows its weakness, and at present I don't see that weakness. So whether the pattern develops, comes to fruition, or whether my primary thesis of price moving up, all of that happens one step at a time. So I'm taking one step at a time. It's followed my projection up until this point, and I am going to hold myself to that thesis till till it reaches the invalidation point. And for me, breaking this pivot or getting consecutive or maybe 3 daily closes under this pivot box of the daily pivot would be a warning flag, right? But it's not doing that at present effectively. So nothing from a thesis, nothing from a bias standpoint where I stand and what I expect the price to do next has changed. Okay, so that's pretty much it on Bitcoin. Nothing major has changed on ETH BTC. I do need to do a dedicated commentary and video on ETH BTC, especially on XRP. I think a lot of people are not ready for what the banker's coin is likely to do next. So we'll wait and watch. But I think it's going way higher. So we'll talk about XRP, CRV, Solana, and effectively the altcoin market, and hopefully the next one, which I do later this week. So until next time, cheers.